Happy Homebrew Wednesday, folks! Ryan here with another special guest. Well, it's the same special guest who always comes on, but this time, rather than being in studio, he is live over the internet. Hey, Corey, how's it going?
Oh, not too bad. Happy Homebrew Wednesday.
Indeed, happy Homebrew Wednesday to you, sir. So, what do you got drinking right now? Ooh, I shouldn't do that.
Let's see. So right now I am drinking let's see if I can get this in the shot. This is a pumpkin ale that I brewed actually a year ago.
Down more,
It's held
down
up
more.
amazingly well. Yeah. This is the beer that actually sat in primary for 9 months. And, actually turned out pretty decent.
I did
How about you, sir?
I did brag about that beer a little bit on the internet once. It's a pretty good beer.
Yeah, it turned out pretty good. I was kind of worried about it, primarily just because pumpkin ale, something you're gonna get tired of, and with all the rumors out there that if you keep something in a primary fermentation bucket for more than 3 weeks, your beer will be ruined. But I think we solidly knocked that one out of the park.
Can you put your
So,
camera down a little bit? Because you're cutting off your mouth and your chin. And
oh, okay. Yeah, I'm going off of the small box that I have of my perspective. So,
yeah, I'm drinking the Red Eye Pale Ale. And I'm going to have to go with you on this one. I'm not a big fan of Centennial hops, at least not in this dose. I think there's 3 editions of them in here, and it's too sweet. I don't care for it.
too sweet, too much of that just kind of centennial citrus. It, it
Yeah,
really needs something else in there. Something, maybe a little, go well with Simcoe or something else that's a little pinier, but
there were
yeah.
pearl hops in the beginning, but I think
Okay.
I'm kind of getting that, but I don't know.
Hmm.
There's just too much sweet in there.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, do you want to tell them about our porter challenge that we put each other up to?
Sure. So, I'm not really sure where everyone's at on the Porter Challenge. Have you previously announced this at all, or
I
are we
don't
starting?
know, but let's start fresh. Let's pretend I haven't.
Okay, so originally we were going to do the homebrew challenge where we were each going to go out and buy ingredients and then do the random swapping. But then we kind of figured out having only 2 people in the challenge, there just really was not enough entropy in order to really make things interesting when you're swapping ingredients around. You really just can't really mess up the other guy too badly without messing yourself up. So we decided to go ahead and try and brew a single style, at least semi according to BJCP guidelines, and given the upcoming winter and being in Iowa, what would go better than a porter? So to make this interesting though, it's not just a porter. There were 2 ingredients that we had to use for the challenge. 1 malt ingredient and 1 single hop that we had to use at least an ounce of. So after some talking, we decided that biscuit malt, not
No,
really typically found in your porters,
no, we went with
but
honey malt.
it was honey malt.
Yeah.
Oh,
See, I wrote
I
it
used
down,
to.
and I was drunk, and I even wrote it down. Remember?
Huh.
I
I
keep showing
used
it to the camera, but he can't see me, so I'll forgive you. We'll let it go.
I used biscuit malt.
4
So
ounces, huh?
half pound.
Oh, you went higher. Okay.
Yep. Ended up using half pound of the biscuit malt. Anyways, but the hop addition that we decided on was we each had to use at least an ounce of Chinook somewhere within the recipe. So I think that's where things are really going to kind of get interesting in sort of an Iron Chef brew challenge. Being able to have Chinook in your porter. Uh,
And
I haven't seen.
especially since we had set the upper limit for OG at 1055, because there's a lot of different porters that could have gone higher than that. And I think it pretty much got us with, what, a brown porter? I don't really think we could go anywhere else, right?
Brown porter, robust porter was also in the ranges for that. I
Okay.
kept my OG nicely. My OG came in at a 1052 actually, so nicely in there. I went for more of an American styled porter. We can go over recipes a little bit later though, but yeah, it definitely kept it interesting trying to make everything work together nicely. How did
Yeah.
yours turn out?
Well, I don't know yet. It has maybe been fermenting or not fermenting for 2 days. I'm having trouble with my yeast. I went with the Y yeast 1084 Irish Ale. Just mix it up a
Okay.
little bit, but try to keep everything very Britishy.
Hmm.
And the yeast didn't activate, but it was going on like 3.5 hours. I need to pitch this stuff. And I was done, and so I just pitched it, and everything said, "Oh, it'll probably be fine. You'll have some lag time." Well, 2 days later, and the airlock's not really doing anything. And I've kind of used the flashlight trick to try to see if there's any krausen building up inside. There really isn't anything there. So, I don't know. I'm debating on waiting another day. And if it doesn't work, I'll just throw in some SO4 I have on emergency.
Mm, that'd be nice.
How's yours going? Yours?
Pretty good. Used USO5 for mine, so I'm going for more of an American style porter. Um, I was originally going to use YE's 1335. That is the British Ale 2, I think is what it is.
Okay.
Was going to use that, but in order to use that yeast, it would have required me to actually bottle one of my beers and then harvest the yeast from a primary. Didn't really feel like doing that on Sunday, so I decided to go with the good old USO5 because, well, it works in just about anything and it should work pretty well in the porter as well, I feel.
Yeah. I tried to, when I was making my recipe, I tried to go with everything more English and English style stuff. It's really,
Hmm.
it's really hard I thought, to define what a porter was. I mean, really, what is a porter? How is it different from a brown ale?
A porter is going to be a little bit darker, maybe have some of those more roasty characteristics.
But then you don't
It's
usually find things like roasted barley in a porter. I think if I was reading right.
it's true. I think more of some of your more towards chocolate malt. Some of those I use chocolate malt in mine to help get some of that darkness in there. I don't know, lightly roasty character. Obviously not roasty how you would think a stout, but a porter was typically your brownish ale. It was more for those guys who were, well, the porters, from what I hear, which apparently is a British occupation. I'm not entirely sure what they did. Maybe docksman? Work the docks? Not sure. Anyways,
So what all did you put in? What was your recipe made up of?
so I'll just go ahead and give the grain bill real quick. Starting with 9 pounds of two row, and then took a pound of chocolate malt, and ended up going for one sort of a silkier, smoother mouthfeel. So went with the golden naked oats, pound of those in the recipe, and then a half pound of Crystal 60 and biscuit malt, respectively. So should have a nice porter feel. Semi-traditional grain bill for your American robust porters, I feel. I really like the oats to help give it kind of a silkiness on the back, but we'll see how it goes.
How
What
did
did you
you
end up going for?
how did you solve the hop problem?
So the hop problem, I clearly neither of us were going to use the full ounce of Chinook in as a 60-minute bittering edition. Just would have completely blown the IBU range that I was targeting for the beer, and it would be an IBU range that would be completely out of style. So what I ended up doing is I took half of the Chinook, so half ounce, and I ended up doing first wort hop in order to provide almost more of a softer bitterness. So how a first wort hop does that. That'll help out. It'll be nice. It's kind of nice to do that with your higher alpha acid hop additions. And then I moved the half ounce back to a 5-minute addition along with an ounce of Cascade. So my thinking there was with the Cascade being able to have some citrusy, almost kind of a grapefruity balance to it, more for your flavor additions in order to help really balance out that spicy character that you would get from the Chinook. We'll see how it goes. It could be interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah. So I went for the partial mash on this one.
Right.
So I started off with... why isn't this coming up now? This is convenient. So I had 2.5 pounds of Maris Otter,
Okay.
half a pound of chocolate malt, half a pound of Crystal 120, and then the required 4 ounces of honey malt. And who knows, by the end
Yep.
of this, I may be pouring all this down the drain. And then I went with the 3.3 pound can of Maris Otter LME, and I wanted a dark DME, but our brew shop didn't have any, and I don't think he even keeps it in stock. So I settled for the amber dry extract instead. So hopefully that works out okay. I don't think the SRM will be too off, so the color should be okay.
I haven't used the Amber LME before. What all is composed in that one?
Well, it's DME, and I don't really know. I never actually looked. I've never used an amber malt extract of any sort actually. Come to think of it, so. But it was.
I guess I didn't really know that was out there. That's
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But since it was pretty much the darkest thing he had in dry extracts, I only wanted a pound of it. That's what I went with. Enough to get. I didn't want to have too many grains, and I wanted to get the OG up a little bit. So
Right.
that's how I solved that problem. Then, to solve the Chinook problem is, I think I probably spent an hour one night trying to figure out hops. So, since everything else was kind of Englishy, I added 2 extra ounces of hops, and I went with East Kent Goldings and Fuggle. So, my first hop addition is just half an ounce of the Chinook, and then at 30 minutes, I throw in the other half. With 15 minutes left, I throw in the East Kent Goldings, and then with 5 minutes left, I get the Fuggle.
Nice.
So hopefully I get a little more earthier flavor to kind of counteract the pininess that's going to come out of the Chinook. And I can't really remember what is the characteristics of East Kent Goldings. Musky, tropical, and strong citrus. So, that's not the right hop. That's Citra. Damn you,
Slight
Northern
difference
Brewers
there.
website. It's
A bit tough.
Yeah. The internet is working against me.
Kind of a spicier character, along with some of that earthiness. It's pretty typical of your British hops.
smooth, spicy, and floral is what Northern Brewer is saying. Although the East Kent Goldings I got were actually a higher alpha acid than what Northern Brewer has theirs for.
Really?
So I'm not really sure what the difference is. Because Northern Brewers were 4 to 5.5%, and the ones I got were 7.2.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Wait, 7.2 for EKG?
Yeah.
That sounds a bit higher than I would have expected for East Kent Goldings. But
that's what I thought when I got them, but that's what the package said.
Sure that they didn't have like a super written on them in Sharpie in front of the East Kent Goldings, or
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I was not expecting that, and so I had to adjust, and luckily it didn't throw me off too much.
Right. If you have them as a later edition, I wouldn't foresee you having any issues with your IBUs being blown out of proportion by them by any means. But, that range is certainly interesting.
Let's see, I guess some varieties go... Here's one that says they have a variety that's 4.5 to 6.5. So that's interesting. So I don't know how I got something so high. Yeah. So if that works out well, if I can get this to ferment, then this might turn out okay. But I think the worst part is that I spent $6.50 on yeast and it's not working. That's bothered me the most.
Yeah, that's one of the issues. Do you know what the... Let's see, does Y yeast do the manufacture date? I think it's manufacture date for Y yeast. Do you know what the date on it was?
It was March 31st. So it was just past the 6 month.
Yeah, that is a bit up there.
I didn't even notice because I wasn't expecting him to have something that old.
Right, yeah, he's usually pretty good about rotating his stock. I'm kind of surprised, but yeah, you might just have a few days of lag time on it then. I'd say give it at least 3 days before you start really thinking about pitching something else. But
I was reading something on the internet. It was just kind of weird. What was it? People were saying, "Oh, I pitched some dry yeast just to get the liquid yeast going." It's like, wait a second. If you're gonna pitch the dry yeast, why don't you just use the dry yeast? Because that's what's fermenting.
Sounds like some people like to spend a lot of money on their yeast.
No kidding. That'd be like $10, $11 in yeast, and wasting the $7 of that.
It's true. I can't even imagine that. I had this happen to me once with a Y yeast pitch that I had. It was of the actually that was the Y yeast 1335. Which does have some lag time on it as well, but I didn't get the pack to swell. I waited 24 hours, and I decided, I'm just going to pitch it and see what happens.
Hope for the best.
Wait another 3 days, and it did eventually ferment, so,
Yeah, I'm kind of doing everything I can to resist the urge of opening that lid to see if something's actually going on that I can't see.
Right.
In normal circumstances, it would probably be okay, but because I don't think anything is going on, I don't want to just introduce anything that's in the air right now.
Right. Especially if the packet was that old, you're probably still well within the growth phase for your yeast. I mean, I wouldn't say the yeast would have been dead, but your cell count would probably still be a little bit lower, so, did you do this if you did it on Sunday, It's only been 2 days now.
Right.
Not really too bad. And your sanitation methods are always spot on, so
Yeah. I don't want
worry
this to
about
be my first infected beer.
it. Yeah,
I've been
I
pretty
feel
good
you there.
about not having that happen yet. Have you had it happen yet? Well, you did, but it wasn't because you weren't sanitized, right? It was because of the weird, awkward period of not being able to do anything with your beer and your airlock dried out, right?
Yep. That was an airlock running dry for, I would probably estimate it right around 2 weeks. And even then, it appeared to be mostly okay, but, eh, when you're having to bottle close to 30 gallons of beer right before you move, literally the day you're moving, some days you just have to make a drain pour, unfortunately, and that was one of those days.
One of those days where you just told yourself it smelled bad, even if it didn't. How did it smell? I mean, did it smell okay when you were pouring it out?
So initially, I got a slight sulfur characteristic from it. This also could have been because it had been sitting. So I brewed in October, and this was May. This was actually in a secondary. I got a bit of a sulfur characteristic, which now that I'm looking back on it, might have just been because, well, the temperatures in my basement got down to such a temp that this was with USO5, so it'll emit a little bit of a sulfury characteristic similar to a lager. Um, I'm kind of guessing that's what I was getting when I popped the airlock, because I didn't really have a pellicle or any other issues like that. Surprisingly enough, I'm not really sure how that worked out, but and then as I was dumping it, it smelled like sweet, sweet vanilla porter.
Oh, it was the vanilla porter.
Well, it was actually the St. Paul porter, but there was a pretty heavy vanilla characteristic to the smell as I was dumping it. Um, I, it was a bummer, but it was May. I had to be out of the house by the end of the night, and I'd already bottled. I think that day alone, I had bottled 3 or 4 batches of beer. So
Wow, that's insane. We did, what, 2 batches when I was over there, I think?
yeah, yep. So I think I had 6. 6 sounds about right. And then there was another that I moved, still in the carboy, just with a solid bung. But that one's doing okay. We'll get around to that guy eventually. So
Oh, well, I think we've hit our time. As always, it's been a pleasure to have you on.
it's been a pleasure to be here, sir.
Happy Homebrew Wednesday, buddy. And
Happy Homebrew Wednesday.
happy Homebrew Wednesday to all of you. I don't know why I switched screens here for some reason, but anyway, cheers everyone. 17.
Cheers.